right? Mainly we also encourage all the women to kind of contact us and connect with us if you needed some of the support, or you want to build a community which is the same goal that we are having here. So that's our WWCode. And then we have a few tracks that is currently running. One of it, like what I say, we actually have a few representatives on today's sessions. We have Kim from a product track, and then we have Yongshen, which is also a director of WWCode. She's handling the software engineering track. So the track that we are having right now is actually a data track, where we will be organizing also a series of workshops relating to data. So who is the organizing team behind all these workshops and events, right? It would be, next slide, please. Yep, these are the organizing team. You have me, Brianna. I'm the director of WWCode, and as for career-wise, I'm actually a data architect in one of the companies called Untitled. And then we have Game here. Game, you want to say hi?
Hi, Game here. I'm actually not in the tech field. I work in the marketing, but super interested in data. Thank you.
Yep, and then we have Yvonne.
Hi, everyone. Nice to have you here.
Yep. And we have Mavis.
Hi, everyone. I wasn't from a data background here, but nice to meet all of you.
Yep. And we have Wai Shin.
Hi everyone, I'm Wai Shin, and I was involved in data analytics and data science for different industries like healthcare, travel tech, and now sport retail.
Yep, nice. So like I said, we don't really, we are not very particular on the background of everyone, so long everyone is willing to learn and willing to actually work together to put up something. We welcome everyone to join our community, right? So for this data series, we actually, we have Jessica here too. For this data series, this is the first topics that we're going to kick off. After that, we have more series upcoming, which will be focusing on building the skill set and building the knowledge that we need for the data track, right? So what will happen next? I think I'll keep it to the end of the session so that you guys can stay with me until the end of the session. So move on to the next. I think it's time to next, maybe. Yeah, so what happens today is we will go through the introduction about WWCode. Then the next one, we will straight away go to the panel discussion. For the first session, we will be talking mainly about what are the data roles that we will be seeing or we have been hearing, and what are the roles that it's not really commonly being mentioned. And then we will also discuss about the differences and also what is the exciting part of it, like exciting burning, guys. Then we will go to the next session, which is transitioning into data. And that's when we will ask both of our speakers on their experience when they are landing into this data field. Then we'll move on to the Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, please really throw it down into the chat group, and Wai Shin will pick it up. Or raise your hand, and then we can unmute you during the Q&A session. Lastly, we'll be wrap up. And yeah, and in between we will have photo sessions. So get yourself ready. We will be taking a photo later on. It's just a screenshot of everyone's head. Yeah, so you can just wear your pajamas, maybe put on some shirt on top. Okay, next please. Okay, some of the house rules to keep these sessions smooth, right? We will encourage you all to mute yourself. And if you have any questions, really throw it down into the chat panel, or raise your hand and wait until the Q&A session. We will then unmute you. Lastly, is we will have a feedback survey carefully and delicately drafted by Yvonne. So we will appreciate you guys really scan the code and then fill it up. Don't drop off in the middle, and it's really 3 questions. Fill it up. Let us know how you think about it. And also let us know what are the other topics that you guys are anticipating from us, so that we can meet your requirements as much as we can. The last one would be a social distancing group photo, as I said earlier on. Okay. And by the way, I will be the host and the moderator of this session, and Game together with me will be the moderator as well. So each of us will take out one of the portions to moderate throughout the session. Next, please. Last this is the most exciting one. Our speakers. So we have Travis here, who is also from Singapore. His background is actually very interesting. Like, he's not a data field person. He's an engineer. And then after that, when we graduated, he actually joined data science. Travis, do you want to say hi to the people, and then let us know why you have chosen data science as a path?
Sure. Hi everyone. Welcome to our talk tonight. Thanks a lot for coming. I am Travis, and I graduated from chemical engineering and marketing from NTU last year. And immediately after, I started as a data analyst at Gojek, which is a company that is like Grab, like a transport ride-hailing company. Why I moved into data science? I think my experience in my internship days and my interest in math and in tech just kind of pointed towards this direction of data science. No particular reason or like a big push that says data science, but it was more of like a culmination of like different factors that all played together that kind of pointed me in this direction, and I just decided to take the leap, and here I am today.
Okay, thanks, Travis. Next, we have Nichols. Nichols, okay, when I was talking about data roles, right, I think Nichols' data roles is very interesting, right? It's not very commonly being mentioned around in the industry, right? So Nichols is also not a data science graduate. I think you graduate from environmental science, right? How did you came across this role as a data science engineer, and why did you pick the role?
Oh, hi guys. Yeah, thanks everyone for coming also. So I think for me, I also studied in NTU, like same as Travis. So I actually met Travis in school. So yeah, I studied environmental science. Actually I did a bit of like geology. So like we study all the rocks and stuff like that. But along the way, I felt that we took some coding courses, and I thought it was pretty interesting. And I thought that, hey, why don't I apply like coding to different things as well, like into different domains. So this is where I started to start reading up, and then slowly I thought that this is quite interesting, and maybe I could have a career out of it. So yeah, and here I am doing some data stuff. So
Nice.
yeah.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah, just now Brianna said that yeah, my work is a bit different. It's because I'm working in like a innovation lab. So DXC itself is like a company, but but the innovation lab does like separate things. So we do more of like POCs. It's a mix of consulting, and then we meet clients, and then we design POCs that we think that can solve their problems. So instead of like purely data, I also focus a lot on like deploying the data as well. So yeah, it's quite an interesting journey. Like I had to learn a lot of things along the way as well.
Nice. Yeah, I think to touch a bit more on that portion and give everyone as a background, right? So maybe we can start with Nicholas, since you're on it already. Maybe we can start with you. Can you tell us more like about your role in terms of like your day-to-day routine? What are the tasks that you usually would do, or the processes that you have to go through that is related to data as a data science engineer?
Okay, so my role is a bit it's more of like a project-based kind of role. So basically my company, we have like various like POCs that we have done before, and then there's also like different things that we're experimenting. So how it starts that we usually have like a client that we are interested in, or they're interested in us. Then we will just meet them, and then we'll do a lot of project scoping, what can be done, what cannot be done. Then after that, we'll adopt like this Scrum methodology, whereby we have like maybe 1 to 2 months to do up the POC to show that this concept actually works. Yeah, so I think this whole process takes about 3 months, 2 to 3 months, maybe 4 months maximum, like every different project. So it's very fast paced. Yeah. So I guess
in terms of, so when you are picking up the project, I suppose the project will be more on data related, right? So like what parts of the processes that you are in place do you have to go all the way from collecting the data and then processing it and then all the way until deploying it, or you're actually in part of it, like they actually prepare the client's data for you and then you just deploy it, etc.
Actually, it depends on the project also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so because of the nature of my work, right, like everything has to be fast paced. So instead of really like processing and training data, I think my data science role only comes in whereby I have to evaluate models. So for example, like a client wants to do something related to computer vision, there's not that much time for my team to go and build up a whole end-to-end data solution, but rather we evaluate like different papers or maybe even solutions that are offered by Amazon and Azure, that kind of thing, and then we see whether they're relevant in solving the particular problem that they have. So I think
Okay.
the data aspect comes in evaluating all these models and seeing actually how it solves the problem itself. I do some like data cleaning and all that, but it's pretty rare lah. Yeah, most of
Okay.
it is more on focusing on the solution.
Okay. So I think I do have a data engineers in my team as well. So like what they do is usually building up, ETL pipelines that you always see. ETL meaning is extract, transform, load. So you extract the data, transform it, and then you load it into another data store, database, or like a data warehouse that we have been serving, right? So do you actually build up this pipeline? We call it data pipeline.
Yeah, we don't. So it's
Okay.
like a borderline data science / full stack engineer, more of like deploying all these models, but the expertise comes in whereby I know how to evaluate all these the effectiveness of these models and whether they are relevant to solve the problem.
Understood. Yeah. Do you do that, Travis, in your company of deploying the models? Yeah, on mute.
I want to say it's pretty rare for a data analyst to be able to deploy real world big models that are used by consumers. On the other hand, what data analysts do for modeling projects is usually more POC, meaning proof of concept models that are not typically deployed to the real world. But I would say what Nicholas mentioned about cleaning the data is very, very relevant as a data analyst. Being able to use very dirty data in our visualizations and in our modeling projects will require a significant amount of time spent on data cleaning. So I think that portion is pretty similar to what I do as a data analyst.
Nice. Then what about other than the model deployment? So can you maybe share with us your day-to-day routine on what are you usually do as a data analyst? Yeah.
Right. So for me, I think I spend about say 40% of my time doing actual like analytics work. And when I say that, that means using say SQL to like extract data from like the big database to a form that is manageable by our computers. I also build dashboards and visualizations that uses this data that I've extracted from SQL into forms that our stakeholders want them to be, or in a form that our stakeholders would be able to extract insights from. So within this 40% of the time, I think I also need to present these insights and findings that we have from these data visualizations to our stakeholders so that they understand what is going on with the data and they can understand like, oh, this is what the data is telling me. That's 40%, right? I think another 50% is more about building data science models, machine learning models that helps solve certain problems that we might have. Most of these models are proof of concepts. For instance, there might be a certain use case for some computer vision projects or some natural language processing projects. So most of the time I spend most of my time there as well, about 50%. And about 10% of my time, I'm very fortunate because my company actually provides 10% of our time to learning, meaning we are free to like choose what we want to do with like this 10%. And for me, I choose to like take certain classes. So yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
Okay, so let me just paint a bigger picture for everyone on the floor right now, because I think most of us are not really from the data roles, right? So like there are a lot of roles that we have been hearing: data science, data analyst, data engineer, and now the new one that to me is actually data science engineer, which I always thought is the same as data engineer. And you have me as like a data architect, and like there are so many roles that is in this field right now, right? So who, like, do you guys think that you guys are actually doing the same thing, or like everyone actually have their different roles and responsibility, and how would you guys actually say about interacting with them? Like, who do you interact the most with? Yeah, maybe you have it. You want to take it off?
I can take that first.
Yep.
I think interaction wise is very, very crucial between the analysts and the engineers and the scientists. Data engineers, you can think of them as the plumbers, right? Yeah, like actual engineers who with the pipes, make sure like data flows from wherever you need it to the destination, say from the app, from the Gojek app to the data warehouse where the data is stored, right? So that's the data engineering work. Whereas for data analysts, as I mentioned, I use SQL to like extract data from like this database. So I use like a shovel to like, you know, dig up the data from like the data warehouse using SQL, and then I make it by visualization. And the data scientists are almost the most, end of the funnel, meaning use this like clean data to build like machine learning models that is able to solve particular problems and learn patterns. So I think go on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that paints a better picture on like where everyone fits together, right? So you are very right, whereby engineers are the one that's building up the infrastructure that's going to be ready for data analysts and data science to do their data mining and also analytics. And I think we miss out for data science engineer, Nichols, where you come in. I suppose it should be after the data science have had their models ready, and then you guys will take it on and then deploy the model, right? And as well the evaluation will come in. Am I putting it right?
Yeah, I guess you can see that. I guess it's just like a fair mix of full stack versus data science stuff. Like you know enough of data science to understand whether it's working or not, but you also know enough like of a bit of full stack software engineering stuff to at least make it work so people can see what is happening. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, right? I have heard of this quote. I think honestly, I only heard it like last week when one of our organizing team actually mentioned about it. So there's this quote saying, "Data scientist is the sexiest job of 21st century." So I wanted to like hear from you both, right? So like, how do you guys feel about that quote? Like, what's your expectation before you join it, and then after that, do you still feel the same?
I can go first. I think yes, I still think that it is a sexy job overall. Because I think there's a lot of applications that can be done with data science, and I don't see the momentum of the application going down, especially with like a lot of big tech companies having so much data. They have a lot of use cases for them. So I still think that part of the job is still very, very sexy. But that said, right, there's a lot of like unsexy parts of the job that people might not know about, like like cleaning data, right, being the data janitor, or and that maybe takes up like 40% of the time of a data scientist, and people don't know it, right? People just expect like the data to be like, oh, super clean, and like you can like write something like select star from table that
too technical, bro. Too technical.
like okay, select everything from a table, a perfect table that exists, but in real life that does not exist, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of prep work that goes in for data science to be successful, and that may be less sexy. But overall, I think there's still a lot of applications in data science, and I think it will remain a sexy role.
Okay. Nicholas, what do you think?
I guess I also agree with Travis to like a certain extent. Like I also agree that like, you know, the future is quite exciting with a lot of like, you know, applications of AI, data science, you know, it can solve a lot of problems in the world, that kind of thing. Self-driving cars, that kind of thing. But to me, it's not sexy in the sense that your day-to-day life is not as interesting as what it seems to be. Like what you say, you know, like your role, you do a lot of data cleaning, which involves a lot of, in some sense, manual labor, because you need to like really understand the data, and you know there's a lot of things, a lot of steps you need to go before you actually start building all the exciting things. Yeah,
Understood.
and I think also a lot of people, a lot of people's idea of data scientists might be very different, because as a data scientist or data analyst, actually a lot of your time involves doing up presentations and like talking to people. It's not just building a lot of cool things, because if you can build a lot of stuff but you cannot tell people about the cool stuff you have built, then there's no point also. So it's also quite important part of your daily life. Yeah, I think we do
To
spend a
build
lot of
up
time
the
doing preparations to like plan what to say, you know, to
understood.
prepare your
Yeah,
script, that
like a
kind of thing.
communications that you have to
Yeah.
get the insights out and make
Mm.
sure our business people can actually understand
Yeah,
and
yeah,
get something out of it, right? Yeah,
correct.
totally agree on that. Yeah, and I
So it's,
totally agree
yeah,
that data is never clean, and yeah, it's always messy to handle it, right? So okay, I think moving on, right? So I believe you guys are not from a data background, and then it's quite amazing to see how you guys have moved on so far, right? Especially you, Nicholas. Like I wouldn't even imagine myself knowing data science engineering without knowing of data first. So how did you guys land? Like what are the skills that you guys think should have in to actually get the role, or like to actually be successful in the role, or at least not to suffer in the role. Yeah. Any like advice to the people if like let's say they are still thinking about if they want to switch over to data roles, etc. Should we start
maybe
with Nicholas?
Travis. Oh, okay. I guess I
Yeah.
can
Oh,
start
you want
first.
Travis?
I can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go.
Travis,
Yeah.
why don't you start first?
Yeah.
I think looking back, there are a few parts of the journey that consists of the learning data science from scratch journey. The starting point would be some form of classes. You cannot run away from it, and these classes would be things like programming, or like machine learning, probability, statistics, the data science stuff. And then once you learn enough, you build your projects, you build the things that you can showcase to your future employers and say, hey, I know this, I have done this in my free time, right? And then the next step will be being able to like talk to people about what you have done, and network, and like start going for interviews and get practice. And then the fourth step is really go for the interviews and secure the job.
So if
this
you
is
can summarize into top 3 skills that we need to obtain, right? Like, or we need to have, in terms of skills or mindset, that we need to have being in the role that you have right now. What are the top 3 skills or
Right.
mindset that we should have?
Right. Sorry, I think I misunderstood the question, but okay,
It's okay, yeah.
I think number one would be more like really analytical thinking, being able to find the root cause being able to break things down into smaller pieces. That's one. Number two, I would say communication, because that's really a bread and butter of an analyst or a scientist, being able to communicate insights from the data to non-technical stakeholders. I think a lot of people find that surprising, that analysts or scientists need to actually do that, but it's actually very, very important, because we form a big group. We are part of a group, right? And the third skill, I think it's the technical skill, the SQL, Python, the R, because you do that thing every day. So if you are fast at it and you're good at it, then you are able to avoid mistakes and be good at your job. So yeah, that's my top three.
Nice. So let me summarize this. One is analytical skills. Second one is actually communication skill and the presenting skills that you meant. Right? And then the third one would be really the hard skill that I suppose you can learn it along the way, but at least as a basic would help you on the job as well, right?
Yes.
So three. What about you, Nicholas? So like the top three that you think should have in the role.
So yeah, Travis, I agree with you like on these three, but to me, I think what can like sustain you a longer term is actually a bit more of like two things. The first one is more of like your desire to learn, because I think in this world in this industry, there's like always something new every time. So I think if you're not a kind of person who like to, oh, it is something new, I want to go and like pick up and study, you know, then it might be very challenging for you to be in this field, because everything is changing and you need to pick up every time, and you must enjoy it, because if you don't enjoy it, you're competing with people who love what they're doing. So you'll just be, out of the race. And I think the second thing is also a part of having this willingness to learn. You must also be able to persevere, because I think as in this industry, there's always new things that are always coming up, and there are many things that you know, and there are many things that you do not know, and many times you just get stuck. So if you really want to, when it comes to those times whereby you're working and then you are stuck, it really all boils down to your grit, like how can I solve these problems. You have to find your seniors, you have to look at Stack Overflow, you have to find many 1,001 reasons just to solve this bug or just to communicate this way. So yeah, it's that one will really help you go far in your career.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Mm.
I think a very, very good advice from both of you, right? And I would like to summarize Nicholas one again. One is, okay, I'm going to be a bit more relaxed now, because it's like so late already. Everyone just don't want a very formal talk. So one is be really willing to learn and to actually go out and understand everything as much as you can. And then the second one would be really be grit, like what you say, tough and don't give up so easily, right? So I think very, very good tips and very good mindset and advice that both of you are having right now. I think the one that we want to touch later on is more on really how did that throwing back to the questions to both of you, how do you all actually gone through such a difficult path from a non-data roles all the way and then landing on the job, right? So I think that's the main topic of the whole session. And being the person that have gone through the experience, I think we will let someone that is very, very interested to know more and careful to learn more, which is Game, to take over the session.
Hey, I'm just a rookie. Yeah, I think before we continue the session, I would like to throw the question to the floor as well. How many of you are like me, who are not in the data field yet, but looking into transition, or want to find out more? Just send us a thumbs up in the chat. Just want to see like how many percentage. Okay. Wow, it's quite a lot. Cool. Amanda, you cannot use the emoticon, is it? Emoji. Yeah. Good.
We have plenty of them.
Yeah, so we have plenty of us. So it would be helpful if you can put in what is your current industry or field or role now in the chat, and then I'll come back to it shortly. So I'm gonna throw the question to both our speakers now. So I think like everyone has been waiting for this moment. How and where to start? So what are the kind of resources that you guys actually had? And I think one of the things that we are quite interested as well, like, are you guys just pure self-taught, like, depending on online resources, or there are also a lot of other data science courses out there, like, Udemy or even General Assembly for physical classes pre-COVID. So could you both share a little bit on your journey on that?
I think I can start. So, yeah, I think, data science to most people sounds like a very sexy and everything, but the fact is that you cannot run away from some form of formal education or some form of academic learning, because I think you need to be you need to have some expertise in like your math and math statistical skills as well as your coding skills. So you need to make sure that you put in a lot of hard work into that as well. Like there's no hard and fast rule. You need to really spend time to go and do up your probability, do your statistics, some coding skills, things like that, because these are the same questions that will be asked during your job interview. So people will just ask you about some probability questions, that kind of thing. So this is just like a disclaimer. There's no running away from that. But the rest, I think, is really up to the person. So I think for me, I got excited in data science because I think in almost every university, there's at least like some basic computing class. So that's what got me started. And subsequently, I signed up for a bit more computing classes, things like that. And at the same time, I think online resources are also pretty good. So I did the machine learning for Andrew Ng. So I just started out for fun, and I realized that I really enjoyed it. And yeah, from then on, it's really a mix of doing my own projects, finding work, finding like online courses. I also try to find opportunities within my school to like try to integrate like data science. So for example, my professor is doing some research on related to earthquakes because I was studying geology, right? So yeah, I proposed like I was asking whether I could do some stuff with R to plot some earthquakes and do some basic analysis for him. So that itself is already a project for me. So yeah, we can even if you're from a different domain, we can try to find like other ways to visualize data, to do some stuff with data in your particular domain, and that will be a lot easier for you as well.
So sorry, I
Yeah.
just want to chip in here a bit. I think we haven't really touched on like the how. So this is like how do you actually get your hands on data and do it, right? But from your end, you're actually depending on just online resources, is it, aside from your usual uni day studies?
Yeah. I do have one or two internships as well. So I
Okay.
guess I was fortunate to be able to get those internships. So they helped me like shape my perspective, and really made me want to get into data science.
Got it. Thank you. How about Travis?
Right. I think very similar with Nicholas. In fact, Nicholas and I were study buddies at one point. We did online classes together and prepare for interviews. I think just now I shared a bit on like the entire flow of the journey. For me, the resources that I use are mostly online. So when the first part of the journey is learning, right, and taking classes. So I take most of my classes from Coursera and DataCamp. So some of the topics that comes up very often, I think as a data scientist, there will be probability and statistics. I think cannot run away from that because data science is all about quantifying uncertainty, and probability and statistics will help you do that. Second part is machine learning, which I would strongly recommend Andrew Ng's Coursera course on machine learning. Third part is programming. So this is a part where you pick R or Python, and then you learn how to like deal with data in that particular language. And then fourth part will be math. In the sense of being able to know what is the formal way of dealing with data using, say, linear algebra or calculus. And the next part, I think that I am still currently learning a lot is computer science. So knowing how computers work, that might be a bit far away for most of us here, but it might be something that you want to keep in mind as well. So yeah, that's where I learned. As for my journey, I think after taking these classes, I started like doing my own projects. I implemented a project whereby I look at the camera and then I smile and it's supposed to tell me that I'm happy. And then if I frown, then it's supposed to tell me that I'm sad. So yeah, that helped a lot in being able to see like what I learned being applied on the computer. And eventually I was able to land a data science internship with LTA, which is the Land Transport Authority in Singapore. It was just a very short project, but I think it provided a lot of like insights into like how a real data project is like in the real world. So yeah, that's my journey. And after that, I took more classes, and then I landed this role at Gojek.
Sorry, I think I was on mute. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think Nicholas was touching a bit on how can you leverage your current situation, like what you said, like you were in uni and you were studying geology, like so you can do some earthquake stuff of analysis. So I think from the floor there's some interesting questions, like interesting answers on what field they are currently at. Maybe you guys can shed some lights, like how can they leverage on their existing role or skills. So I think one of us mentioned that she's in marketing. So I think Travis, part of your major is marketing as well, right? Maybe you can share a bit how does marketing how can someone who's in the marketing field like me can transition to a data role? Yeah.
Right. I think in whatever role you are, whether it's marketing or whether it's technical or not, there ought to be some form of analytics that you can do. There will be some form of data that you come in touch with, and I would say use that data and analyze it and practice your analytical skills, whether it's in the form of visualization or experimentation or presentation. With that current data and role that you have, applying this to marketing, for instance, I'm sure as marketers, you would come into contact with data like sales data of your product or the gross merchandise value, which is the revenue of the company. This form of data, you can just plot a graph and see if there's any anomaly during any particular period of time, or if there is a particular hypothesis that you as a marketer is very interested in, use that data to prove or disprove a point. I think that mindset of being able to use current data in your role and apply analytics to it is something that might be very helpful for people who are not currently in the data role to learn data, to learn analytics. So that's my take on it.
Sure, thank you. Maybe next question for Nicholas. What if some of us in the position that we don't really have the access to our company data? Maybe we are in a separate department or not, it's just like unaccessible PNC and things like this. Is there any resources out there with like public data that we can actually get our hands on and practice so we can show our boss, hey, by the way, I've done this. Can you give me more chance to learn more about data in my current role, so on and so forth?
Yeah, definitely there's tons of resources out there. So I think the most popular one that I can think of is kaggle.com. So it's basically like a website that hosts like a lot of open source data sets. So if you can just Google, there's like a search bar, so you just search what kind of data you want, and then there's like they just provide a lot of data sets for you. You can just download it and then just play around with it and see what you can come up with it. I think you can, for me, I think there's a lot of Medium blogs as well. So all these blogs, they also have a lot of data science enthusiasts, people are trying to get into data, or data scientists themselves. They actually share about their data science projects. So they also share about where they get their data and how they actually do the coding and everything. So I think that would be a good source of information as well.
Right, thanks for sharing that. I just wondering, where is the Southeast Asia data community at? Like, do you have like a Facebook group, or is there a Reddit thread? I mean, like, do you guys have any information on that?
Honestly, I think there is a gap.
Yeah.
In the data science community in Southeast Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The closest thing that I can get my hands on, I think it'll be Tech in Asia, where get resources on like tech companies. Maybe more locally in Singapore, we have Data Science Singapore Facebook group, where it's they promote events and share resources. But I don't see a huge momentum or a huge across Southeast Asia, not as of now. Nicholas, you might have seen something though. I'm not sure.
No, I don't think as of now there's something like really formal. There's no really kind of a data science kind of group.
Right.
Yeah, like what Travis says, there's a gap.
Oh, that's why we are doing this series.
Wow,
Hard sell. So I guess my next question is actually in the next set, like once you do all this self-learning, and where do I start, getting the job? How do I build out a portfolio? Where do I start looking? Maybe you guys can share some insights on that.
Maybe I can start first. I think for a lot of us, we are experts in our domain. So to start a portfolio and to start a project, you might want to look into what you already know as a domain expert. And you think about problem statements that excite you at work or your passion. And from there, you might want to figure something out, and you can Google search a particular data set that is already publicly available to solve that problem, or to analyze the data. And then from there, you can look at the current technical skill sets that you have. Say if you're good at data visualization and you want to tell a story about what you're passionate in, then maybe you can build a project in visualizing the data set that you have found in this particular field that you're very interested in. So I think for me, to put it into a concrete project, right? I like chemistry, and I want to understand, and I like wine, right? I like to drink. So I wonder, like, what makes a wine good, right? Like from a chemistry perspective. So what I did is to look at like wine data set and the chemical composition, and then take a look at like how good these wines are, and then build some visualizations around it. It was silly, it was fun, but I think that's how we can build our own portfolio, by looking at our passion, by looking at what we already know, and find the data for it, and you'll be on your way.
Awesome. How about Nicholas?
Yeah, I agree that the portfolio is also pretty important. Not really related to the portfolio, but related to your like data science interview. So I think sometimes depending on the company, they might ask like basic to advanced programming questions as well. So I think one good place to practice your SQL queries or your basic Python or R coding is like those programming websites like LeetCode or HackerEarth. So yeah, I think some fair bit of effort is also important to be put into practicing all these questions as well on top of your portfolio, because some companies might have that as a part of the requirement. So basically, there's a coding test on top of your data science portfolio. Yeah.
Got it. But how like in like more generic question, is like, how do you guys start? Do you guys go to job boards, or is it like asking through an internal promotion of your boss, like, hey, can I actually go to the data department now? So what was your journey back then?
I think I'm not so sure about Travis, but for me, I think I just had to be I had to have to be thick-skinned, you just need to know when to stop, like to do all your own projects and stuff, and just like start applying. So I think for me, I did ask around, but I think back then my network was not big enough to, I don't really know much people in data science or data for that matter. So I really applied a lot on LinkedIn and those job portals around. And yeah, I guess I was lucky to get a few interviews. So I think I did it in the more traditional way.
Has it been a lengthy process, like, or it's actually like because you're so hardcore applying, you get actually like a lot of replies or things like that?
I think it's not that long. Because I think there's a demand, but the thing is that I think some companies they do not see the value of like your current degree, because as a fresh grad, we don't have any working experience. So there's always this slight stigma. I think it's changing already. So I think the amount of interview requests I get in the beginning was not really a lot. So I just had to take my chances. Yeah.
Sounds good. So in short, what you are saying is, don't wait for that epiphany moment that, yeah, I'm ready. Just like go all out.
Yeah,
and
just
go along
do
the
it.
way.
Yeah,
yeah. Okay. How about you,
I think
Travis?
it's both lah. You do both at the same time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Travis?
I wholeheartedly agree. I think for self-learners like ourselves, we have a lot of self-doubt, and we think about, we always think about, am I good enough for this interview? Will I fail this interview? Will I, not do well? Will I get laughed at? Nobody cares. Just apply. Seriously.
Yeah.
Most probably you're good enough. I think if you have done your homework, if you have taken some classes, if you have done some projects, you're probably already pretty good to go. I wish I could tell myself that when I was learning, because I was so scared of going for my first interview, right? I was like petrified, and I actually got some interviews and I canceled them because I thought I'm not good enough for this. I will fail this interview, which is not the right mindset to have. So I think, don't doubt yourself too much for all of us here. We are all self-learners. We have quite a journey, and we have to take pride in that. We have to trust ourselves and trust in our abilities, and what we have gone through, and tell ourselves that, we're good enough, and just go for the interviews.
Right. Yeah, to add on,
Thank you for the words of encouragement.
Yeah. So yeah,
Go on.
interviews also a good chance to gauge your own skills. So yeah, that's why we say it's like a process. After an interview, you realize you're missing some things. There's a certain library you didn't hear about, that kind of thing. So yeah, just don't worry and start trying. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So I think since we're touching on interviews now, I'm pretty sure you guys didn't land the job on the first interview, right? You guys are the veterans of interviews, of the veterans of the veterans of interviews. So what are the main blockers, or what are the most memorable blockers that you guys have faced during this the whole job hunt process? And maybe you can share a little bit of the process as well. Like what has is it like what Nichols said earlier, there might be a coding test you have to be prepared for? Yeah.
I think I'll go first. So for interviews, because of how competitive it is, at least in Singapore, there are a lot of rounds, which I think is also a common case for Malaysia as well. So in an interview, there is typically like first round, which is like the HR chat, where we go through the resume. Then the second round will be maybe the coding interview, meaning they give you like a take-home test, and then you build a particular project, and then you come back to them. And then the third round will be something more technical, in the sense that they might invite you down and they ask you certain technical questions in machine learning, in programming, or in probability and statistics. And after that, there might be another round on product type of questions, meaning they might quiz you on your thinking process on solving a problem. For instance, they might ask you, how do we measure the success of a particular product? And you have a whiteboard and you solve it in front of your interviewer. So I think that's the general overview. For me, the blocker, I think the hardest part for me was the technical test, because there is a lot of knowledge to learn just for that one interview, because it's literally everything in data science, from probability to computer science skills. So there's a lot to cover. And yeah, that was my blocker. But I think, as with technical skills, when you practice more and you study a bit more, you get more comfortable with it. So I think that was solved with more studying.
Yeah, I think Travis, you gave a very good outline of the typical interview process. But I realized that most more mature companies, they start to have more like holistic kind of interviews, whereby you, like what Travis says, you have take-home tests to do. So to simulate like a real world environment, you have a certain amount of time to complete a certain task, and then to see how well you do it, as well as like product related questions. Because you not only need to show your data, but you need to make your data make sense. Yeah, I agree that both of these are the more common kinds of interviews that will be asked. Yeah, I think for me the greatest blocker is also the technical test as well, because yeah, there's just so many things to do, and sometimes some companies, they might not understand the difference between computer science, computer engineering, and data science. So sometimes the technical tests that you get are actually like computer science related questions. So it's when you get this test, you start to panic because you start getting asked questions that you really have no idea about. But I urge you, you guys, when you are being faced with these situations, just to be honest and share with them about your current skills, what you can do and what you cannot do, because it's both for you and the company to learn as well. And this might also be an indication that the company might not understand what data science is actually, so it might also be a good thing for you also. Yeah. So
Thanks for
yeah.
sharing. Yeah, I think it sounds quite overwhelming if the computer science part seems like a blocker for us, like the non-tech person here. So we have a very interesting question from the floor. So which computer language should we pick up? Where to start? Which one to start? Yeah.
I would say usually for data science it's R or Python. It really depends on your company. For tech companies like Gojek, typically we use more open source softwares, which means Python would be better in integrating the entire data pipeline with the company's existing product. Whereas for some companies that are maybe more scientific in nature, they might prefer R, where there are more scientific packages. For companies that might be in finance, they might request for something like VBA. And for other companies that might have existed for a longer time, they might expect more older statistical softwares like SPSS. So the short answer is Python or R, and the long answer is it really depends on which company and industry you're looking at.
Yeah, I think when you start, it doesn't really matter which language, Python or R, just choose one and then be good at it. Anyway, as your career advance, as you continue to do work, you have to pick up projects that use different languages as well. So the most important thing is that you know what you are, all the different concepts that are inside, like maybe some OOP or some functional programming concepts. So these are the technical things, but yeah, basically just learned one thing very well. To add on also, I think SQL, like a data, like query languages are also pretty important as well, depending on what kind of data role that you want to do. So usually people start with SQL. I think it's the easiest, the most basic, not basic, but one of the most beginner languages to start. So yeah, I think it's very typical to get asked SQL questions, and then when you work also, you need to like query database to extract your data. So yeah, I think after understanding like a programming language like Python, and then start to learn like a query language as well. Yeah, and I think to go further, I think some companies like they are even more demanding. They might want you to know a bit more of like command line, like Linux, some bash scripting as well. But the one is yeah, it's just a good to know. You can learn it along the way. Yeah.
Got it. So I'll throw it to you. If you could choose Python or R to start out, like based on your knowledge and the demand in the market, so you choose Python or R. Nicholas.
I started out with R, but I think Python will be pretty good because Python can do a lot of things. It's easier to read in some way. Yeah.
How about you, Travis?
I'll choose Python.
I like Python more because there are more packages and it's more friendly for the company. More people uses Python. Yeah, more people. Yeah. Brianna, I see you giving up. You want to give your share?
No, I'm a Python advocate.
Yeah. And really
I know
like
all the way, guys.
yeah, MK, I think you asked the question like the ID doesn't really matter. I think it depends on what you need to do. So like more data analyst visualization stuff, people will actually use Jupyter Notebook. But yeah, I do use like VS Code or Spider itself as an ID to just do some Python stuff. So it doesn't really matter. I think there's a process. You start to experiment and see what suits you. As long as your code makes sense, people don't really care what IDE you use. Yeah. And you like the theme of the IDE. all the different colors and stuff. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for sharing. I think we would use the last 30 minutes to actually answer all. We have a lot of Q&As. Why don't I pass to Wai Shin?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we have, by the way, I'm Wai Shin. So I'm collecting the questions that you asked in chat. So there are a list of answers, and some of that has been answered by the speakers. So I will just pick a number of questions from the chat. So the first question is from Kim. So to both, what is the most unexpected part of working in data that surprised you? Anyone want to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
Okay, I think the most surprising part is how dirty data is. Like it's just incredibly like dirty because when you start learning data science, everything is kind of put to you in like a nice bowl, like they feed you with like really nice data. But that is entirely not true when it comes to real world data where there is missing data, there is data in the wrong format, wrong spelling, there is data that does not make any sense. Just have to deal with it. And I think that is particularly surprising because it's just what not I expected data science to have so much data cleaning. But I think that's just part and parcel of data science.
How about you, Nicholas?
I think for me, it's the deployment part. So after, you train models and everything, then what's next? You need people to use it, right? So I have to learn a lot of different things. Like I had to learn a bit of how does the web work, how does server work in order to host your model so that, people can actually use it. So yeah, I thought that data science is just in its own world, but it's actually much more than that. There's a lot of talking to people. There's a lot of seeing whether people can even know how to use it properly. So a lot of communication, a lot of technical skills in making your model accessible to other people. Yeah, so that was the most exciting part and the most surprising part for me. Yeah.
Exciting.
You can get, yeah, you get people, you can let people see what you have made and then you know how good or how bad it is. Yeah.
Okay, so one is data cleaning, another one is you're talking about deployment, which I personally agree as well. Okay, we move on to the second question asked by Asham. So he was asking, what do you think of an opinion like, one, data science is just about stats and coding without business understanding, and second, data analytics is just about dashboard. Travis, do you want to answer first? Oh, okay, Eddie.
Or Nick, you go first.
Okay. So like maybe you can paint this scenario, like you're a data analyst, right? Then you've done a bunch of dashboards or like you've done some statistics, then you show to your boss. Then your boss will just look at you. So what? So what? What can I do with this? How can this help me? So like a data scientist is not just, or data science analyst is not just to just take all the data and then plot it. I just take and plot. But there's a problem that you want to solve. And how do you answer this problem? How do you answer this question? So it's much more than that. It's how you take this data, how you understand this data, and then use these statistical tools to put it in such a form that people can understand you. So yeah, take it's so for example, like let me think. So for example, how do you know that people are having diabetes, for example? You see, you need to know that people are getting diabetes because of the huge amount of like sugar being consumed, right? But when you get the data, you don't see you don't see it in such a way. But it's really the magic eyes of these analysts to see that, oh, there's actually something interesting here, and then I take this out and I put it in a graph, and then I show it to the person that I'm working with, so they can solve the problem. Yeah, Travis, maybe you got anything to add on?
Yeah, I think that covers it. I think what Azam mentioned is the tools of a data scientist and an analyst, right? The tools of a data scientist is stats and coding. the tools of an analyst is dashboard. But what is the goal of using these tools, right? Is to solve problems. And to solve problems, you need to communicate. You need to talk to people, understand their problems. So yeah, I mean, sure, it is about the tools, but it is also about solving problems with these tools.
Okay, cool. Move on to the next question we have from Xin Yi. So she's curious to both of you as well. How long do you take for this transition? Is it 1 year? Okay.
For me, I think I took about a year or slightly less. I started my first class seriously learning data science in my year 4 of university, and by like the 8 months or like 9 months from my first class, I secured my first job in data analytics. So yeah, 9 months.
I think for me it's a bit different. So like I got interested in coding when I was in year 2, but it was like during this period of time where I really consider, what can I do in the future, that I really decided to get into data science. So that from that point onwards, it's about 1 year, 3-4 months. So a huge portion, like the first half of the time, was really doing a lot of learning. So I think the first 6 months was just really doing a lot of learning on my own. Then subsequently, I started to transition a bit more to like doing my own projects and internships, and then subsequently, getting a full-time job. So yeah, roughly around that time. The learning part is the
Yes. So if
tough
you
part, yeah.
want to like transition, so you have to start with some learnings. There are a lot of online resources available for free, and then you can slowly take up some projects and build a portfolio for the transition. Okay.
Yeah. Travis, I'm curious because during the learning phase, right? Like if you have an internship or something, how many hours do you spend every day, like after your day job?
Like back then when I was
both.
I think now maybe like I might spend like 3 work days, evenings, and then like 1 whole day of my weekend. So that's around 10 hours
of your weekend.
right now. But back in uni, I was a lot more intense, I would say. Maybe like like 40 hours or so.
I think for me it was like a more routine thing. So I put in like 1 to 2 hours every day, and then weekends I will spend like 4 to 5 hours. Yeah. Even now I think so. Travis, I think you're definitely doing like learning on the side. I think I too. So we do have to put in some time to learn. Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay. There are a lot of resources online. Okay, let's go to next question from NK. So if you're hiring, what skills would you look for? Is it Python, SQL, Tableau, machine learning? Are they all important?
I would say that that's like the first thing. The first thing is to know that they can do all this stuff at least in a certain level. They can manipulate data, and they know how to code. Doesn't have to be very good, but you have to code. Like I wasn't good now as well, but I think what they're looking for is how you can communicate, how you can answer questions using data. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree actually. Like the technical skills itself is actually not the most important. The most important is still being able to communicate. As for the question, the technical skills, I think what MK has listed are all pretty important skills. However, if I were to rank it, I would say SQL first, and then some form of data visualization softwares like Tableau or Google Data Studio or Power BI, and then Python or R, and then machine learning in that sequence. Especially if you are more looking towards a data analyst role, then perhaps machine learning is less important. But if you're looking for a data science role, then machine learning will be more important.
Yeah, I think to put it this way, I think like there's like Python, and then there's like a data language, and then there's a visualization tool. So like a tool to query data, a tool to visualize data, and then 2 to like program, and then finally like depending on the job, machine learning
Yeah.
or like deep learning. Yeah, so maybe about 4 things that you have to keep in mind.
Yep. So and different data role might have like different skill set that's specific to what your organization needs as well. Okay, we have a few more questions. Okay, just proceed. This question is from Tang to Travis. So maybe I've already answered. It's one of the question is how much programming do you do as part of your overall time spent in your role? What is your programming output? More product or system?
Answer that in the chat.
Oh, you answered?
Yeah, I would say around 70%.
Okay.
As a data analyst, and the rest of the 30% maybe it's about like talking and communicating.
You also answered the how big is the Gojek data team as well.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We have another question from Powell. So I say it's wonderful to hear from you about the particular area expertise. Regarding career, how do you see the market for self-employed consultants and lecturer? Is there a high demand as is known from IT?
I wouldn't be the best person to comment on this because I don't know the market in Malaysia. But at least from Singapore, I would say for consultants and lecturers, I think there is a growing demand for data science. For Singapore, we see, at least I see like the consulting companies like whether it's McKinsey or the big four accounting firms, they all have some form of data science or tech consultants. And lecturers, as for lecturers, I would say, NTU just open up a data science and artificial intelligence track in NTU, and there are a lot of demand from like other faculties to have their students learn data science as well. So I think at least in Singapore, we do see a trend moving in that direction. For Malaysia, I am not too sure because I'm not on the ground. Maybe Waishin, you know more about this.
Me, to the background to the participants. So I'm working for data analytics and data science in Malaysia, KL region. For me, I've been seeing some job posting about data. There's quite a demand that I see from LinkedIn because some of the organizations are setting up their new data department. But overall, I guess it's still pretty new in Malaysia. But people are aware of it and willing to try out like, what data can bring to the organization.
Yeah, maybe we can look up some reports that is able to support our stand.
I think I can add on this portion about the data consultant, right? It's getting more and more high demand, I would say. I think a lot of consulting companies are hiring for data and analytics consultants, especially. I'm not sure whether if you guys are familiar, EY is like heavily recruiting right now for data analytics and analytics consultants. I think on this field right now, it's quite demanding, and I can see a lot of courses churning up from big data and so data science. And I suppose from there, lecturers are also very high demand because we need kind of expertise to teach our future generation. Right? So yeah, I think that's all I have for now.
Yeah, you might not be the best person to like comment on this, but it is like what we know based on what our connections. So we can answer, let's say time, we can answer a couple more questions. We have a question from Man Hong. So what kind of company is looking for a data science related role to fill in? So he's he's interested in advertising, marketing, or retail. Oh, I'm from retail, by the way. So do you want to like help him understand what kind of company looking for data science role?
For me personally, I think tech companies in general, companies that collect a lot of data and is sitting on the treasure trove of data would need some form of data science to help them extract value from the data that they have. I wouldn't say it's industry specific. I would say it depends on how well the company, how much data the company has. You are looking at, in every industry there ought to be companies with like a lot of data. Say advertising, you have Google, which is like sitting on like so much data, right? In marketing, you have, Facebook, which is trying to do ads as well. Retail industry, you have Amazon. It really doesn't. I think in every industry there is some space for data, so it's not specific to particular industries. Maybe Nicholas, you might have a particular stand on this.
To be honest, I'm not exactly sure as well. I do agree that mostly it's the tech companies that are recruiting. I also heard from one of my mentors that I think most industries, they're also still trying to make the switch into data. So I think during the interview process, you might encounter in interviews, like job advertisements that seem a bit weird because they are neither here nor there. Yeah. So Travis is right. I think on that we can just do more of market research and reports as well. So I'm not I'm not really the best person to give an answer for that. Yeah.
Sure. So probably I can add on a bit because I'm probably too. So you were saying data science. I would guess mostly a tech company, who is hiring, but for some retails or advertising, probably you can start from data analyst. So to analyze some data, or data engineer to build some data pipelines. Then in future, they might be looking for data science role. Okay. Next one. Okay, we'll end with the question from Jason. So the question to both of you. So do you have any comments that will there be too many data science professions in Southeast Asia soon? Or to rephrase, will many local companies be coming on board and really beneficial from the tools, for data science tools?
I think for me, I don't think there will be too many soon. I speak from a perspective of demand and supply. Demand from the companies which are realizing that they have potential from the data that they are not fully utilizing. Supply in the sense that there are more and more talents that are coming out, and I think I don't think the supply is able to keep up with the demand yet. So I would say there is still not, there's not going to be too many. In fact, if I were to quote an article from Reuters, I think it was released like last month in Singapore. There is a tech crunch in Singapore for tech professionals, and that has resulted in an increase in salary and competition among the tech companies. So I don't think if Singapore is facing a tech crunch, other countries in Southeast Asia are likely to follow suit in the same steps of tech digitalization as well. So I don't think there's gonna be too many data science professionals anytime soon.
Yeah. How about you?
But with that being said, Travis, I think I think there's a demand, but I also realized that the barriers to entry has been getting higher and higher, because with the because in order to learn about data science, pick up coding is not really that hard nowadays because there's so many resources online. So companies have also been aware of this, so they have also been very targeted in the interviews, to sieve out the good ones from the okay ones. So there's still quite a fair bit of work to put in order to get into the field of data science, because I think at least those tech companies, the big ones, the interviews aren't that straightforward. Yeah. So there is a supply, there is a demand, there's a lack of supply, but the interviews themselves are still as equally strict as ever. Yeah.
So I guess that answers Jason's question. So next we will, that's the end for Q&A session. So thank you for the questions there. Thank you for actively participating in the conversation. And next up, we'll move on to next agenda, right, Verna?
Yeah, we will be taking photos.
Yes, we need to take photos.
Yes, we need to take photos. So can everyone in the call switch on your camera so that we can take quick photos?
Yeah, guys, switch on your camera so that we can take a nice group photo.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you everyone for sticking through. I hope everyone got something to take away from this session.
Yeah, I know it's quite late right now, so let's take a quick one. Let me put everyone on the view. Hi, Leo, you're
Hi,
walking.
everyone.